You know that feeling, right? That pull between something that feels really good and what you're told is, well, right. Today we're diving into a worldview that takes this exact conflict to its absolute extreme. It's a path that winds through pleasure, penance, and the ultimate promise of paradise. Let's get right into it. It all really comes down to this one huge question. Why is it that something that feels good can be seen as morally wrong? I mean, it's a tension we all deal with, but the framework we're exploring today, it offers a very specific and incredibly structured answer. So this worldview draws a really sharp line in the sand. On one side, you have worldly pleasure. This is seen as fleeting, temporary, honestly a dangerous distraction, pure vanity. But on the other side, you've got divine joy, which is eternal, the ultimate goal, the actual reward of salvation. Our whole journey today is about understanding the massive gap between these two things. Okay, so if worldly pleasure is basically a trap, how are you supposed to avoid it? Well, the answer might actually surprise you. It doesn't start with some kind of extreme sacrifice. No, it begins with something much, much closer to home. It starts by redefining what penance even means and framing it as a life of simple duty. This quote right here, this is the key that unlocks the whole idea. When you hear the word penance in these texts, this is the clarification that comes with it. The sacrifice God is looking for isn't necessarily some grand, painful gesture. It's the day-in, day-out fulfillment of your duties and your obligation. And you have to admit, this is a pretty radical shift in perspective. It means the central question of your life is no longer what makes me happy. Instead, it becomes what is my duty? As you can see here, the scales are tipped heavily. Obligations to God and family are way more important than chasing personal pleasure. And these duties are super specific. For kids, it's all about a clear hierarchy. Love your parents right after God, show them honor, help them out when they need it, and even steer clear of pleasures they wouldn't approve of. And get this, last one. Friendships should be based on shared virtue, not just, liking the same stuff. It's a very structured way to live. Now for parents, the duties are seen as complementary. You have this idea of the husband as the head, who's meant to guide and sanctify, and the wife as the heart, whose service to the family is where her virtue shines. And their main job together? To guide their kids toward a life of spiritual value, not worldly success. The ultimate model for all of this, the poster child, if you will, is the Holy Family. In this worldview, they represent the absolute ideal, a life where what you want as an individual takes a back seat to a collective sacred duties. Okay, but what happens when the stakes get higher? What if just doing your daily duties, as important as that is, just isn't enough for someone who's really trying for perfection? This is the question that pivots us into a much more intense, much more demanding spiritual world. And now we step into a much, much starker reality, guided by the writings of St. Alphonsus Liguori. The focus shifts from just duty to a new, powerful theme, the absolute vanity of the world, and this idea of life as a journey to eternity. So, in this view, life on Earth? It's not the main event, not even close. It's just a short, dangerous layover. Think of it like a perilous journey you have to get through before you reach your real, permanent home, which is eternity. And once you see it that way, well, it changes everything. The logic here is just completely unflinching. To him who reflects on death, everything in this world appears contemptible. The idea is that constantly being aware of your own mortality acts like a filter. It's supposed to strip away the value of everything we chase. Money, status, pleasure, all of it. And the language used to describe this moment, wow, it is brutal. At the hour of death, all the stuff you cared about in the world is revealed for what it truly is. Smoke, dung, vanity, wretchedness. They actually become thorns, making it even more painful to leave this life. Of course, the ultimate symbol for this kind of detachment is Christ carrying the cross. It represents the complete rejection of worldly comfort and the willing embrace of suffering for a much higher divine purpose. It's the perfect model for this entire worldview. So this brings us to a really crucial question. If doing your daily duty is one kind of penance, what other kinds are there? This is where we start to see a whole spectrum of sacrifice, with some people taking a path of really extreme self-denial. The key word here is mortification. And it's not just about, giving something up for a little while. It's an active, ongoing practice of disciplining your body through voluntary penance. The goal?
to train your will and get your soul closer to God.
And St. Alphonsus is held up as the prime example of this. For him, the penance of just doing his daily duties, that was just the starting point. To reach what he saw as spiritual perfection, he took on voluntary acts of mortification that were way more intense.
And according to the texts about his life, his practices were severe. We're talking about sprinkling bitter juices on his food, constantly wearing rough horsehair, attaching small iron chains to his body, and even using whips on himself. This is definitely the extreme end of the spectrum, where denying the body is seen as a direct path to purifying the soul.
So, naturally, this begs the question, why? I mean, why would anyone embrace a life of such difficult duties, strict denial, and even extreme physical pain? Well, the answer is all about the ultimate goal. It's the reason behind all the sacrifice. So let's put it all together. We've seen the path. It's built on a foundation of duty, a complete rejection of worldly vanity, and for some, the intense practice of mortification. All of these steps, all parts of this journey, are pointing to one single destination, an end goal that's considered so valuable, it makes any hardship worth it.
And here's the crucial twist. The ultimate reward isn't a place, it's a state of being. The text says it right here. The good which constitutes heaven is God himself. The whole point, the entire goal, is a direct, personal, and eternal union with the divine.
The sources describe this arrival almost like a grand coronation. The soul enters the celestial city of delights, gets welcomed by angels and saints and family. She's then presented to Mary, the Queen of Heaven. But the final, most intimate moment is being received by Jesus as a divine spouse. This signifies a complete, unbreakable union of pure joy that lasts forever.
And that right there is the final calculation. In this worldview, you weigh the infinite and eternal happiness of being united with God against the very finite and temporary suffering of life on earth. And from that perspective, any amount of sacrifice, any duty, any penance, it doesn't just become logical, it becomes absolutely essential.
And so, we end up right back where we started, with the same question, but now we're looking at it through a very, very different lens. This worldview provides one stark answer to the question of happiness and its true price. The real question left for us is, what's yours?